we're going to get started. I usually work on my 3.5-inch tile. If you have just a regular piece of copy paper, that's fine. I do work in a square format, so you can just kind of draw a square on your paper to be able to kind of represent the tile shape. It can be any size. If you want to draw larger, you can, but this is the comfortable size for me. You'll need a pen. I use a micron, a pencil, and if you have a tortillon available or just a piece of rolled up paper for blending, that can be helpful. Okay, so the first step, we're going to use our pencils, and we're going to put a dot in each of the 4 corners with the pencil. Then we're going to use our pencil and connect the dots. That's pretty much the beginning of Zentangle pretty much every time. Sometimes we use those border lines for our tangles and sometimes we don't, but it's always a nice practice to get into to begin. I'm going to draw 2 lines to divide my space. I'm going to do one a little short from that edge and a little short from that corner, and just kind of draw it across like that. I'm going to do another one like this. The first one we're going to do is called ing, I-N-G. Now ing starts with a zigzag line. So we're going to zigzag in fairly big zigzag across this line, and then we're going to take it all the way off the side of the tile. So I'm going to start right where the pencil lines meet, and I'm going to do back and forth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start drawing some lines from the tips of our zigzag. We're going to start on the right-hand side, and we're going to draw a line that goes from the tip of the zigzag down to the line below it, right kind of in the middle-ish somewhere. So I've just turned that zigzag bit into a triangle. I'm going to do that again on this one. And on this one, I'm just going to let it fall off the bottom of the tile. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with those tips. I'm going to come from the tip of the zigzag down to the line right beneath and just land on it somewhere. I'm going to just let that one go falling off the edge. And then this one up here, this triangle, or this tip, I'm going to come from that edge and I'm going to land on that line somewhere like that. So now I have these triangles going back and forth like this. Now to do the next step, I'm going to turn my tile all the way around so that my point is at the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing I just did a minute ago with these tips tips of my zigzag that are sticking out here. Start at this top on the right and go down to the line underneath and just kind of land there somewhere. I've got a bunch of triangles. Okay, we're going to be doing this again, but this time I'm going to take my zigzag from the other side. So I'm going to start over here and come this way. So I'm going to pick the first one that I did. I've got this top triangle that's a point. I'm just going to work in one triangle at a time, and I'm going to do an aura inside the triangle so that it kind of parallel lines that edge. So I'm going right inside from one end up to the tip and then back down without touching the outer line at all. I'm going to do that one more time. So now that I've got 2 of these lines that are paralleling the outside, I'm going to fill in with ink this inner triangle. We're going to be doing that same thing in all of the other triangles. So this basic thing with the triangles that connect to each other, that's what's called ing. And then there's lots of different ways that you can add other tangles, other patterns to it, determine how dark or complicated that particular ing is in your design. So I'm going to turn it back around the other way so that I can come from the point down again. This time, on each of those 3 lines of my sides of my triangle, on the inside, I'm going to draw kind of a curved shape that goes from corner to corner. Just watch this for a second. I'm going to do 3 of them. Like that. And then I have this little space that's kind of a rounded triangle in the middle. And I'm going to squeeze an orb shape in there like that. And then fill in the little spaces. So what we're going to do to finish up this ing is on the out, we have these nice rounded edges on the inside. We're going to go put those on the outside. So from point to point on the triangle, and like this one is going to be just a tiny little one. Okay, I'm going to show you the next tangle. It's called Rixty, R-I-X-T-Y. And this one kind of grows. You start with 1, and then you just keep adding more of them, however you like. When I did the sample this morning, I started in the corner and I grew my Rixty, and then I decided I wanted to go in behind and keep coming out the other side. So we're going to start with our Rixty down here and take it wherever we want to take it. So the steps for Rixty is to draw a little line and a buddy. That's the stem of Rixty. They always have a little line and a buddy. They always do 2. And then there's a cap that goes across the top. So it kind of looks like a letter T. Then we're going to, from the outside edges of the cap of the T, we're going to draw a line that comes back down and stops at the stem. So it makes a triangle between the stem and the tip of the T. We're going to do that on both sides. We're just going to stop when we get to the stem. And I'm going to fill both of those triangles in with ink. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line, a little space away, and follow along that shape of the top of that Rixty, but it's not going to touch any of the triangles that I've just done. It's going to come up and around and back down again. And it can have a little bit of a rounded corner there. That's the basic Rixty. Now we're going to add more to them in this space over here. And there's a couple of different ways to add them. You can just add another stem. But if I want to do a split Rixty, then I put a V on the top. It's a little space. It doesn't do a point of the V, but this turns into 2 stems when I add the buddies. So I'm just going to continue growing my Rixty in this space. When I get up to where I'm bumping into the ing. I'm just going to draw the rixties so that they look like they're going behind the ing. And how I do that is I stop my drawing when I bump into the ing. Okay, so I have filled in that space down there with rixties. To make it look like they're coming in behind, I'm just going to start on the other side of this ing and put a rixty stem. For those who would like to add a little something else, you can. You could put a couple of little berries on rixty here and there. So on my sample, I had some shading on there. I did some more berries in between down here and shaded all of those rixties. This is just something else you can do if you like. I put a little shading on my ings to give them a little more depth. I'm going to go ahead and show you that shading real quick. The shading for this ing that has these pods and orbs on it, there's a spot where there's a whole kind of a nexus where there's a bunch of lines that come together around the outside. I'm going to put a little bit of graphite right there at that nexus and then blend it out into those pod shapes. So the other place I'm going to add a little bit of shading is in this ing with the triangles. There's a line where that's kind of like the base of the bigger triangle, or the base of the solid triangles. You can add a little bit of shading on the white parts that come off of those bases. Now you can find a spot anywhere you like. I'm going to tuck my initials right in here.